became redundant having the information on the site and the systems and all that stuff. But I wanted to kind of go over just a few small details very, very quickly today. This week, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about some topics of the tough news that happened over the past week. It wasn't even really that too bad, but it just, for some reason, they just seem to come in right at those times when pushing signals around, pushing dailies around, pushing all these products that we have around, and kind of obliterating some of our processes. We also want to talk about the new signals, a new set of signals that is coming out. And again, even though that this is a DEX signals, this is going to be also recorded for everybody in our network for the DEX family trading tools and stuff, for everybody to know. But I wanted to kind of hone in a few things with you guys as you begin to filter out what your position is here with DEX signals. I will also talk about the NA intraday because it still needs work. I had it working good, and then so I don't know. We don't know what happened, and we don't know if it was the code structure fell apart or what we were using to try to talk to each other. But investing.com changed some of their security stuff on there for RSS feeding, and so we had to change our protocol and how we get the information just a little bit. So we had to stop it, and we're trying to get it finished and ready for Monday. Okay, but we'll talk about that here in a moment. Before we do, we are going to talk about some money and some progression of our trader experience. So just in case you hear something that you think you can do just as well as us or better than us, remember that all of this is educational trade assistance only, and of course all results may vary. It's been a tough news week as far as how much news has released in certain periods of time. The downside to working around news, especially for things like dailies that normally can trade through the news, is that news is so freaking unreliable. Okay, what works this day and this day and this day 1 month later may not work in the same fashion, even if they go in the same direction. The way the market responds is completely irrelevant to the news outcome sometimes. In reading some of the charts and some of the systems, you get to see that if the USD releases with a positive inflection on the market, that the USD will get stronger, and therefore the Euro USD should actually go down. But we've seen a few times this week that was the opposite, that the news releasing with 2 bulls or 3 bulls on a depletion of an acceleration of the USD made the Euro USD go up, which made no sense in some cases. Also, things that normally wouldn't affect the market the way they do, like people just speaking, Mr. Trump, made the market kind of go a little wobbly everywhere. Now, also depending on when the news actually releases and how strong certain bars are, if you have, let's say, an 8:30 time period, okay, back to writing. I'm getting a touchpad, by the way, so I could use for this, so I can use a pen and write with this. Be very cool. Can't wait to get that. That'll be here Monday. Goes with my supercomputer. But if you get like just one set of 3 bull news that's releasing at the 8:30 market, you know the market's going to be inflected pretty hard, right? You're going to move 10, 20 pips, 30 pips, 40 pips maybe, even at that point. But what happens when you have multiple cases of news that release on a 8:30 time period? You usually see this in the U.S. session. What happens sometimes, okay, is that this might be positive, and this might be negative. And then you got a positive, and then you got a negative, and then maybe a negative, right? And just because you got an even keel of negative to positive here, the market still does something huge and goes one way, or sometimes goes like this, right? Stays right in a margin of going sideways. Now, I've seen this happen a lot, okay, that we anticipate a large amount of news is going to mean movement, and that's not necessarily true. And the reason why I know that these 3 variables happen because I've seen them all. And with all the projection software, with all the data sourcing that we have, with all the data that we've accumulated over the last year, Do you realize that every single signal I've been tracking what news source affects the signals at what level? And guess what, folks? I can't even find it. There's no rhyme or reason of detection saying that the FOMC release of notes happens and the market always does one thing. There's always room for error. There's always room for indecision, or the market flipping the other way, or bulls or bears getting into a particular part of the process. I want you all to know that Nadex, the big company Nadex, okay, is really this company out here, okay, as far as if this was the world of trading Forex, okay, a multi-trillion-dollar industry a day. Nadex is all the way, it's probably even, I can't even make the dot as small. Let me see how small I can make the dot. Okay, there we go. There's Nadex. All right, let's see, erase the original concept of Nadex, but there it is. Okay, that's what Nadex is, right? And what we're doing is that we're watching what Forex does. And we're speculating through the exchange of Nadex. Here's us, here's another trader, and us two traders are watching what the Forex market does, and we look and we go into Nadex and we say, okay, let's strike a deal inside Nadex, okay? And we strike this deal inside Nadex to about what the market is doing, right? But what is the market? What is the Forex exchange? What does it really consist of? Well, this is where money exchanges hands through banks, through corporations, through organizations, everything. But who actually trades on this thing? Who trades in this world? Well, bank institutions, a big one, right? The world banks. That's a big one, okay? And the World Bank trades in this process millions and millions and in fact trillions of dollars at any one time. And so at any time that you have a big corporation or a banking institution, okay, money institution, moving that amount of money, there's ways to infiltrate certain things and make certain things happen to the market at certain times to protect yourself. And I'm going to give you an example. Last year, their banks in France were holding back inflation news and other news. Every time bad news came out about the franc, the CHF, okay, they would increase the value through their banking institutions in order to level it out. So the Swiss franc was staying at a neutral number even when news was going like this. The Swiss franc was staying like this, right? And basically they were stuffing it full of value and taking it away when it was appreciating to keep it at a certain level the entire time, so it wouldn't depreciate too far down past the US dollar. And then last year, on a particular day, the government released a statement saying we no longer can do anything to withstand the power of the market anymore. We have to let go of what we're doing. And when they did, what do you think happened? The CHF plummeted. So the USD CHF did what? Through the roof, right? And so sometimes banking institutions along with governments, okay, so governments are another organization that trade, right? And then you got corporations trade, Pepsi and Coke and international companies that have, you know, factories in multiple countries. They have to pay their employees. They have to involve themselves into the exchange of trading money and doing things like that. Okay. Another big one, and probably one of the most elusive, is hedge funds. Hedge fund companies will trade on the FX market. It's a great resource of money. But when you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars being traded by a single entity, what can that single entity do to the market to trade it? They can influence it. They can do certain things to make the market go up and down at certain times, to grab certain levels where people would put stop losses or take profits, or to make the market just enough to, because if you're saying it's a sell, they're going to just scare you just a little, take a loss So you're gonna cut it there and then make the market go back to the direction it was going to. And they can do that by flooding the market with buys or sells, depending on how they want to influence the market. And that's what happens every day in the FX world. And so when news comes out, it starts to fluctuate and do certain things, okay? And one of these corporations or all of them say, well, we don't want it to go up like this anymore, so let's start selling it off. Grab all these all these stop losses and then make it go back up again. Because when they start selling off, dropping the price, they may be taking a small loss, but then they're buying all the good ones here, where all of us retail traders, the last corporation of people, all as retail people are, doing our not immature, but ignorant kind of buying in, buying out, psychological buying at this point. There's a lot of psychological value here because there's a lot of computer generated trades here, and here, of course. So we're battling all these corporations at the same time, providing cannon fodder to a developmentally challenged group of individuals who are here to make as much money as possible off of our pain and the world's pain, right? So why I'm going on in this rant today is because over the last months, since I guess the temporary, from the president election, it's been happening in the market. There is some, market evaluation of after tweets he's done. There's been market evaluation after Hillary was coming out doing things. The market was being influxed. They were trying to see, could social media affect the market to a degree? There was a big social experiment happening in the last part of last year and the beginning of this year. Things you probably didn't hear about. But in this world of trading, we're still out here in Nadex. We're still speculators. We're still making tiny bets on a world that is happening out over here. Now, do we still need to kind of know how this operates? And the answer is yes, we do. So what I try to teach people at any level, okay, is that you have to look for the warning signs and know when, like we have a trader, I don't know if he's in here today, his name's Chi. And Chi has learned that yes, where systems and discipline does work, sometimes, just like in anything, abstinence becomes the pathway that you have to take sometimes. And sometimes not trading at all is better than risking and jumping in. We know you need money. We know that you need to make this work. We know that you have to become profitable and be a work-at-home trader, and you have a goal to get to. But during this time of trading, during this time of learning how to trade, you also have to learn when not to trade. And this is why when tough news weeks happen, people sometimes get their butt handed to them. But you have to know and look at the resources. As long as you didn't make mistakes, is it too much to bear? And the answer is, if it is happening too much to bear in a certain time, is to break, take a moment, ask some questions, maybe read some information online to see if there's anything crazy happening that you're unsure of, because sometimes investing.com doesn't have all the answers, and neither does Forex Factory. Okay, sometimes you just need to get the Financial Times of some sort and find out what's happening right now. Did Russia implode? Did something happen over in Yugoslavia? Or what happened to the US dollar? Did the Fed come out and say something? Did Yellen scream too loud? Did something happen? And you need to kind of take a step back, because we don't have all the answers either, because we're just in the same line as you. We may have a little bit of a jump sometimes, but we have our heads down trying to make things work as well. So the dailies didn't really get hit too bad, but they did get, there was one batch that I know of, okay, that sometimes when they lose, you may think that the whole world's losing, right? And if you got like 5 or 6 signals that come out at once and you're like, let me pick this one, or you put 2 or 3 working orders on, the one that's about to lose is going to fill the working order, right? You know that. And it's like, that's the only one that filled, because this one didn't fill, this one didn't fill because the market was pushing it too far out. But it was reversing on this one, so it definitely filled. And so you think the whole world's against you. So you go in the room and you're like, did anybody get in that British pound USD? And did you guys all lose? And everybody's losing in there from that process, right? And you're thinking, well, that's a lot of people, and who just lost? It's the signals are failing. The signals aren't failing. What they are doing is that the signals at times can be tricked into releasing false signals on the dailies, of course, on the occasion. Intraday's completely different part of the mentality, right? Because what's happening with intraday's is as the news comes out and the market comes out, it's tricked to, if news is going against the pair and it starts to go down, it tricks the indicator on our network to say, oh, it's a trend reverse, put in a signal, boom, and it's going to go down. That's why we say avoid news, right? Now, sometimes we say to avoid a half hour before and a half hour after a news and make sure that no news is happening around the expiry, right? So if this is the signal, if this is the market, and here's the expiry, okay, and the news had come out like right around in this area, right, 3 bulls right there, and it was headed down like this, and it's like, all right, let's do a sell, or let's do a buy here, right? So we're going to do a buy here in this position, all right. And the news had came out, and it tricked, because it's because it was heading downwards, right? And right before, now this is too far into expiry. Let me show you real quick. I'll come back here so I have room. This is a bad drawing here. Okay, so you think everything's great, so you got in and it started to do a buy, and you're like, yay! But then the news collapses onto the process, and what happens? It starts to go back the way it was originally intending, right? Because this was only a little burp. Okay, but the news ended here. Why did this happen? Why, the news happened, and it happened a half hour too. So this could be like a half an hour, and this could be, another half an hour here. But you got in, because the signal said here, you get in here, and you went and got in, and then the news is like, it finished doing what it's doing, and then everybody's like, all right, well, that's the end of that, and everybody sold off and they went home, right? And so you lose. So sometimes the effect of the news isn't just in the current hour, right? You really got to look. And what sort of dictates if the news has been heavily impacted into the next hour or the next series of signals is that you're looking for very large candles, right? Sorry, that's a terrible candle. You're looking for very large candles that usually have medium to large wicks as well, right? Or you're looking for candles that have no, just little tiny wicks up top or shadows, right? But pretty large. And it's usually a bunch of little candles. We call this an engulfing candle, right? So this is like a bunch of little candles that happen prior to, and then you get this news release that happens, and it's a huge candle, right? And then you get another medium-sized one, and it kind of goes up again. And then it starts to come down, right? So it dictates that, look, it's all coming down, the news hits, and it bumps up here, right? Bumps up here, and then it starts to go back down. Sorry, this is looking like a third grader trying to explain football to somebody. Okay, but it really does come back down to news. You're looking at 3 major times, right? When the signal came out, when the signal's ending, and if the news has already come out and it was a lot of news, let's say it was like 8:30 news, there's like 2 or 3 bulls, 3 bulls in there, right? There's a couple of those. I would almost create a dead zone in there too, a whole session afterwards. So maybe another hour afterwards. I don't have exact timing for you. All I know is that when I go to a pair, like if the signal comes out and I see a big, huge engulfing candle, I'm probably going to avoid that particular signal, okay? If it's saying, if it's starting to come down and you're thinking, all right, well, it's a sell, looks pretty good, I think it'll work, right? You can get into trades like that. But if it's heading up and you're like, it's a buy, and because remember, if it's going to continue on, it's only going to continue on for a short period more and then reverse, unless, of course, it was already to the highest point. There's so many other variables involved. But in most cases, the news comes out, pushes it in a direction, it has a big candle, and then it has a couple of smaller ones, and then you'll start to see things like shooting stars. You don't have to know all these terms, but you'll start seeing very long wicks or very short bodies, very, very short bodies, right? But long wicks. And what this means is that there's a battle going on. Like if you get a big candle, if it's red or blue, or up or down, or bull or bear, you know who won, right? You know that if it's a big colored bar and it's red, right, for your bears, then you know that the bears won. Then these are the people that are selling off. They made the market go down. They won the war, because all this is really a war, right? This is a big war. And when that happens, The war was won by a side. So bulls won this one, bulls won, barely won this one, bulls almost won this one. But then on this one, it was like a little, you see it, right? It's like they call it a shooting star or upside down hammer or Thor's hammer, whatever they call it, right? It doesn't really matter. I have a system in there in Elite Training that tells you what all the candlesticks are. But the point is that the war starts getting closer and closer and closer. And sometimes they call it a doji, where it's a Japanese term. So it's almost like it's even, right? A little upside down cross, or sometimes it looks like this in the opposite direction, right? On a candlestick. The big one is where when that starts to happen, when that starts to fail out after a big move, it's about to reverse and go on, right? Not always, but a very large majority of the time. So when you go through news and you're looking at the chart, after big news, have a look at the chart. If you got a big, huge candle and you got nothing else afterwards, wait, okay? If you got a couple small ones, right, happening, keep an eye out, for the big battle, right? The one that has gotten, it looks like this, or it looks like a shooting star. It looks like, an upside down hammer, or a little tiny war with that one, which means that it went one way for one direction and they beat them all the way back to nothing, right? Doesn't matter which side of that game it is. Somebody won and somebody lost, but it was very, very super close, okay? So you want to keep an eye out for those things as you're trading more. And I'm going to have more news discussions with people as we go. Learning how to trade is never just about following a signal. It's about being able to understand what the market is and how you can affect yourself within trading, right? We watching Nadex, right? Here's our little speck of a world happening right here. I just gave him an increase in power there too, if you've seen. But we're watching this market happen and unfold. So all this nonsense, all these people over here, okay, because we're not even part of retail traders. You understand that, right? Unless you're trading Forex, we can't affect the market from where we stand. So all these other people around, Pepsi and the hedge and the capital and the World Bank and all these people in here that can affect the market, they're in there battling, and we're just sitting around speculating who's going to win each one. Who's going to have the most winners over the next 2 hours, and the next hour, next 5 minutes. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so it really does come back down to your understanding on how these battles happen. And if you look at a chart, it'll tell you easily certain things. And those certain things you learn inside DEX signals about support and resistance, and learning how to spot the candles and what they all mean and what it does. Learning how to read charts. Okay, head it over to DEX indicators and you'll learn even more. All right, I want to talk about some new signals that we're working on right now and why we did this. Over the last year and a half, we've been doing nothing but building a network that compiles data. I mean, our data system is so robust. We have like 4 servers, and Amy can contest to this. We have like 4 servers that do nothing but compute data off our site here from my office. And of course, I have a supercomputer here now that actually just, I can run this thing immediately and just pull data out of it. It's incredible. But the concept of using this data it's not about data from the market per se. It's about how our signals, okay, get affected by the FX market. So when we take a judgment of the signal from our dailies, okay, we take that information and we apply it. And when we started to apply it, we found really quickly, if some of you on the webinar last night, you probably heard this already, that we had devised this part of the process that it gave us some information that we really started to use. And just as early as yesterday, I mean, we've been doing a tremendous amount of back testing, trust me. There's millions and millions of lines or not millions, but a couple 100,000 lines of signals that are being compiled. Now, every time that I add a new variable in, I run the machine. I add another variable in, I add another indicator. I added 114 of them into the process at one time, or not all at once, of course, but at different parts, and change, because each variable, because if I add a stow or I add a MAC or I do whatever I do to it, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that when I do it, each one has probably 10 or 15 different variables I can apply. And I started to slowly squeeze it down to find out where is the best one. And once I did, it spit out some very troubling information for me. And I mean troubling because it's taken a year and a half to gather all the information, okay? So you get all this timeline happening, okay? Here's us starting, here's us going through June, here's us going hitting March, we rebuild the system, here's us building out Dex signals in the training, starting to do some webinars, here's Dex indicators, here's Dex Trader, here's Christmas, here's the New Year, you know, and then here we are now, and from the beginning of this week to right now, we compiled the data that is going to probably make our company bigger than all of this time put together. And the reason being is that the data that we got from this made it so simple of a process for us that we were right on a couple of things. The big one was news avoidance, avoid the shit out of news. So we're right on track with that. We're right on track with something else that we were right. We were missing it on the spectrum. We went dailies, which were 2.5 hours, right? 2.5 hours on the trade, and 1 hour trades. We needed something right in the middle, sort of right in the middle, not 1.375, but we needed a 2 hour trade. But we did have the time frame down of judgment, right? The time frame that tells us the signal base, the signal time of 1 to 3 hours, right? 4 hours, right in that time period, to be looking at certain areas of information, okay? And once our system was able to depict a solid core direction, we had a very large success rate. And I mean, from a customer using it, investor using it process, we had because I'm not computer trading with this yet. We do have a signals process that's happening, but I'm only turning it on during no news periods. Okay, so in one way, it's going to be manual that we're going to be trading in a way, right? Because I'm going to come in, I'm going to push on. It's going to give us an availability that during this on period, because there'll be no news, that certain trades will come out. And when those trades come out, people will be able to trade them. But when there is news, we're going to turn it off, right? And so there's no news, there's no signals that are going to come out at those times. There's also going to be times a day that I don't have people that I can have watch it and turn it on and off when there is news. And so there might be times a day that it won't have traders available for it, or trades available for it, or signals available for it. Okay, but I can tell you one thing: if you see a signal, it's because somebody has said, "I will let that signal be," and so it has one classification of verification, right? That there's one level of verification that it has 1 hour heart to be out there in the world as a signal because it doesn't have news attached to it. Okay, so we're gonna watch this very carefully over the next couple of weeks. Now, how do you get part of those signals? One, you have to be a Dex Trader member, and I know if you guys are from Dex Signals, I'm sorry, or a senior trader here from Dex Signals. Okay, the reason why that some people that if you're just brand new, I don't want you into this process just yet, because I want you to get through all your learning and all these process. I need to know that, because in order to get these new signals that we're going to be doing, I'm requiring you guys to be able to do a journal, okay, and do so one effectively, okay, not just throw a bunch of copy and pasted information and expect me to filter it all out. I need you to filter the information per trade and all that stuff, okay? So keep that in mind. Secondly, if you're an indicator person, you're going to get some access to a version of this on Monday and Tuesday of next week, because we're going to turn it into an indicator series as well, a very special indicator that you'll have that will have the market value on it and some of our lines, our depicted lines, and our proprietary lines for what we're doing, and I'm going to apply the strategy to you and show you how to use it from that decision, okay? So you can apply for the signals through Dex Trader here after Monday, or you can wait till Tuesday and do the things yourself anytime you want. So you can just rely on our signals from Dex Trader, or you can go to Dex Indicator and get the program to be able to use that yourself and just go through the training to do it, okay? But they will not be made available for Dex Signals unless you're a senior trader from Dex Signals, okay, or Elite or Senior 2, okay? All right. Next, NA intraday. I only have one word, and that's GER. I've already talked a little bit about it today. That ignore them for right now. There's no direct value in there. Over the weekend, I am putting myself into harm's way, if you will, to be able to really go through this and make sure that investing.com, because we have the Forex Factory in here, but it just didn't give us enough information to be able to avoid proper news. And investing.com was doing good with it until they changed their variable for how we collect information. But now we're going to go in and fix that as well. But I needed some extra help with that. So that's basically it. So we're going to try to have it by Monday and Tuesday. Can't make any promises, but I can tell you one promise I can make you, okay, is that we're going to keep going until we get it, because this is something I definitely have to have in our network, not only for the current intraday, but the future 2-hour trades and maybe not so much the dailies. The dailies are going to just keep going, because that's so much information. It's not even funny. All right. Final thoughts. There is a part of your career that you're going to come here and you're like, all right, what's next? Some of you have been sitting waiting patiently. Some of you have been asking me, when can you get to my system? When can you get to my thing? Or how can I help and be better? Or what can I do to be more part of this process? And I can't thank you enough for that. Okay. But at sometimes I don't have an answer for some of you. I don't have the direction directly over your head to be able to help get you to that next level for that's if it's trading or if it's more involvement or those things. I do want to be able to do that for you and be able to do that over the next couple of weeks. We are going to be charging on and getting into how can more people help. Okay. And we're going to have a seniors group of people. Sounds pretty bad, right? It's like we're all going to Florida. But we're going to have a seniors group of people or a group of traders that are going to be sort of it's going to be like a little community of you. Okay. And I want you to be able to self-navigate. I want you to be able to come up with the concept, and we can apply a team, we can apply a process, we can apply a grumpy old man, right? The village store says, okay. But we're going to create this world for you senior traders, and I'm going to want to hear, concepts and visions and ideas and things like that, because you're the ones doing it. You're the ones in there talking to people. What can we better do to charge? What can we better do to build our relationship? Yes, Heidi, you can. What better can I do to learn the system? What can I help with in training? Can I be another voice like Mike is? Can I do extra things? Or what? I want to hear ideas of what you can do at that point. What do you want to learn? Those things. So I'm going to put you into a talking room, and I'm going to bring some people there. Now, with some of you in their senior level 2 traders, okay, if you're a senior level 2 trader, next week we need to have a meeting, because I'm going to be giving you senior level 2 traders some things, some tools that you'll never go without ever again, no matter what happens to the company or myself or what have you. And I want you to have these tools because you've earned it, and you'll get those. All right. So we're going to be doing that. At this point, I want to thank everybody who's watching after the fact for getting to the video. We only did about 30-something minutes here, and thanks for being patient with me and being late. For everybody else, hang out in the chat room. We have some questions and answers we can get to real quickly, but then I got to get going. I want you all to have a great week. The final thought that I was trying to get to here is that we're just charging on. Sometimes you just need to keep pushing forward, and that's what we're doing now. We have a great understanding where we were, where we're at right now, and of course where we're going. I'm Max Farrell. This is Dex. I look forward to seeing you inside, and definitely trade well. Have a great week. Everybody else, hang out.